Welcome to the Programming Electronics Academy podcast. Join us every other week as we explore how everyday people are creating extraordinary things in the world. Find us online at programmingelectronics.com.
Hello, I hope you're doing fantastic. This is Michael with Programming Electronics Academy, and if this is your first time tuning in, thanks a ton. I hope you enjoy the show, and if you do, please do subscribe. We started this podcast because we want to educate and inspire people about electronics and programming. I mean, there's just so much going on. Hey, why not talk about it a little bit? We release a new show every other week, Monday morning, ready for your Monday morning routine, whatever that might be, if it's swimming in the Potomac River or reading Cicero, whatever. And what we normally do is interview a guest, somebody who is doing interesting things with technology, specifically usually like microcontrollers or development boards like Arduino, because that's just kind of the stuff we're interested in. This week's guest is Noah Del Coro. And, I got to tell you, I love talking to younger people who are into engineering and programming, electronics, all that stuff, because it just plain inspires me. Noah, he is in college right now. He's studying engineering. And we talked to him about a couple projects that he's documented on Instructables. One is a fingerprint reading garage door opener, and another is a wireless igniter he made for doing things like launching model rockets. We also talk about his experience as part of a FIRST team when he was in high school. And if you haven't heard about FIRST, it's a really neat organization that gets kids involved in technology, and you'll learn more about it in this talk. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this conversation. See you on the other side. Hello, Noah. How's it going?
It's going well. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. So I kind of reached out to you. We actually saw your stuff on Instructables, and I must say, I think personally, done a really nice job on Instructables, documenting some of the projects you've worked on, and pretty impressive stuff. It looks great.
Thank you.
But I guess before we jump into a couple of those Instructable projects that I was interested in, specifically the ones where you're using Arduino, what you had the fingerprint scanner garage door opener, which was awesome. And then I was looking, and you have some other ones on there too that I thought were pretty cool. One was the other was the remote control igniter, which was like blowing my mind. That looks sweet. But I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got into electronics and programming and Arduino and stuff.
Yeah, sure. I started out around middle school, but I didn't really get into learning and tutorials until high school. And it was at that point when I got my first Arduino kit as a birthday present. And from there, I took the initiative to try and just learn what I could from sites like Instructables. And I think the biggest thing for me was realizing that I didn't know everything, and using sites like Instructables and posting on sites like Instructables in order to learn more about it. So I started off, my first Instructable was very simple. It was a really small circuit, just a simple battery, photoresistor, button, and LED. And all it was a little copper circuit where you would spell your initials and create a little circuit. And from there, I've kind of taken it step by step in order to build upon what I know and build upon what other people know and build off of that.
That's really cool. I'm not too familiar with Instructables, but it sounds like it has a pretty vibrant community. Is that a true statement, or?
Absolutely. I know from personal experience that you can get really awesome comments and in-depth comments from different people, and people reply to comments all the time and send personal messages about like how you got into it and help with different projects. And it's overall a really welcoming community too. So when I started off, I didn't just look at different people's Instructables. I've actually contacted people and just like reached out and gone to a bunch of people for help, and they were more than welcome to help.
That's cool. So what birthday was it when you got your Arduino kit?
I think it was my 14th birthday.
And were you doing anything in high school at the time that was like along that line, like any type of STEM stuff? Or
Absolutely. My freshman year, I took robotics class and continued that throughout all of high school. I was lucky enough for my high school to have a robotics class at all. And junior year or sophomore year, I joined First Robotics, which was amazing and really helped me build my not only technical skills, but interpersonal skills.
so just so I'm clear, the first program was separate from what you were doing at school?
Yes, it was. It is through the organization First.
Yeah, I'm kind of familiar with First. It is a great organization. If anybody out there is listening, you can go to firstinspires.org, and I've heard a lot about it. I've read a lot about it. I think it seems like a great organization. I guess I was always curious whether or not it was like through the school systems, or if it was kind of like an after, or like kind of a separate thing.
Most teams actually are associated with a school. But that also doesn't mean that if you're not at the school, you can't join.
Oh, okay.
Because my school, I had two high schools in my town, and we merged the two high schools to form one robotics team. And my robotics team actually worked out of a makerspace, so that was really exciting in its own. And we got people from both high schools and from high schools in the surrounding area. So if you're interested in joining First, please check it out. It's a really, really great program.
Yeah, it just looks fantastic. How big was the group that you were in, the first group?
My team was actually on the smaller side. We had around 15 to 20 people per year. Some years we had around 25.
And in First, you guys use, I know it's like a robotics. Do they use Arduino type stuff, or like C programming kind of stuff? Or
for prototyping, absolutely, we use a lot of Arduino, and in conjunction with the main robotic system, which is given to us by First and programmed in your choice of Java, C++, or LabVIEW. I know on my robot we used an Arduino to program the lights on her robot, and that was really cool. We used WS2812s.
So what would you say was the most intimidating thing for you when you were just kind of starting out with Arduino, or were you even intimidated at all?
I think the most intimidating thing that a lot of people can relate to is getting to that first post, or how to get involved in the community. Through Instructables, that first Instructable with just a simple question was how I managed to do that. And since then, I've joined a lot of other communities, and it's exciting getting on and talking to other people, because other people is where you get the information and the inspiration.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like Instructables is a pretty nice community, welcoming too. So if you don't mind, I want to kind of shift gears and talk about the garage door fingerprint scanner opener deal. So again, you've got an Instructable on it, and I'll make sure in the show notes to link to that Instructable. It's a pretty sweet gig. It seems like, you've made this from bottom to top. Looks like you even 3D printed the case for it. It's got an LCD screen on it, and I believe you were using a AT-Tiny on it also.
Yes.
And then of course that fingerprint scanner unit, which is pretty neat, and also it looks like there was like a limit switch on it, some other neat stuff. What was the inspiration for this project?
A lot of the inspiration actually came from things that already existed and a personal need. So I walk to school every day, but when I got home, there were a few times when I look in my backpack and I say, wow, I completely forgot my keys this morning. So I've I've gone so far as to climb in through a window, even trying to break into my own house.
Yep,
So
I know what you're talking about.
So I knew that an option would be one of the keypad openers on a garage, but that wasn't as much in the DIY like experience.
Right.
So instead, what I tried to do is come up with something different that I hadn't seen before that would make it really easy for me to get in, even register other people to get in and have that be permanent. So instead of somebody being able to just steal the code and have access to the house and possibly steal something, it would be as secretive as a fingerprint can be.
What was the most difficult part of building it?
I'd say the testing and debugging the code and the setup. Because when I started coding, I didn't really know where the entire project or what features would be implemented by the end.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it was code I had written and then not fully tested, which isn't the best thing. So when I got to the end and I had all of the hardware set up, I uploaded the software. Things were a little messy when I installed it. And when I installed it, I learned that there are a lot of differences than testing something on your workbench and moving it out to where it's supposed to be implemented. And for example, the fingerprint scanner didn't pick up a fingerprint well if it was in the sunlight, because the sunlight would pass through your finger and obstruct the sensor.
Oh, wow.
So one way around that is to put the top of the scanner on to make a shadow when you're scanning your fingerprint. But something like that, or some way to get around somebody just breaking it and shorting two wires and the garage door opener.
Right.
That was a huge concern. And that was something that was not implemented immediately, but added in afterwards. So little things like that.
Well, you're even thinking about security. That puts you way above a lot of folks, so hey.
Yeah. I tried to make it as practical as possible. And that was what I really tried to go for, and giving that to other people so other people could have something that's practical.
Was it hard to do, like, of the stuff that I think about working with, I can't say that a fingerprint scanner is something that I've personally worked with or used. Was it hard to implement that? Is there like a library you can pull for it? I would imagine there is.
Yes, there actually was a library that I found pretty easily, just a quick Google search. Especially for Arduino, you can find libraries for almost anything, which is why I think it's so cool. And for this fingerprint scanner specifically, the author of the fingerprint scanner library actually saw my Instructable.
Oh, cool.
And commented on it.
Oh,
and that felt really, really cool, because he saw something that he worked hard on, and he saw it being implemented and put to use in the real world. And I was able to be contacted by this person who I look up to create these magical libraries. And it was overall a cool experience.
That is very neat. And I saw that you had a 3D printed case for it also. Did you design that, build that also? I
did. I designed it in SolidWorks on my educational license from my first robotics team.
Nice.
And I printed that at my school, which my robotics teacher let me use the 3D printer.
Oh, that's cool. And what did you say you're studying? Have you decided your major yet?
Right now I'm studying computer engineering.
Cool. So, yeah, definitely I'll have, again, I'll link to that project. But the other one I wanted to talk about real quick was that wireless or remote igniter. Could you just kind of explain it to somebody who might be listening, kind of draw a picture for them with words?
Sure. So in order to connect two things without a wire, to send data between two things, I used these two chips, one receiver and one emitter. And what it does is it sends out a radio signal, which both sides are controlled by an Arduino. And the radio signal is sent from one to the other. And on one side is the button, which is emitted to the second side, which is the igniter.
And what actually does the ignition part? How does it, because it's meant for like a model rocket or something along that line. Is that correct?
That is correct. So when the signal is received by the receiving Arduino, it triggers a relay that actually heats up a small coil of wire, which then can ignite something that it is touching.
What did you build this one for? What did you have a specific needs you wanted to make it for?
Actually, yes. It was the first part in a multi-part series of Instructables I was planning on doing. But more specifically, it was right before the 4th of July, and I really wanted to try and ignite a firework safely, which was pretty important because the fireworks that we have and all consumers have they're short fuses, and there are a lot of accidents that are caused by fireworks. So I wanted to try and minimize that by making a wireless igniter.
Were you able to do it?
Yes, I actually was. I needed a small piece of nitrocellulose, which is explained in the next portion of my Instructables series. But besides that, it actually worked really well, which is cool.
Well, that's cool, man. These are really neat projects, and again, I'll definitely link to these things and link to some of the stuff that we've been talking about. Probably to that fingerprint scanner. I just think that's such a neat idea, and I really liked how you were able. It looks like you had built it so that you could add people to the database. Did you have to like adjust the code to manually add somebody to the database, or could they do it on the fly, like after the fact?
It was actually programmed to add people on the fly as long as you were with someone that had previously registered a fingerprint.
Okay.
And that was made possible by the great work of Joshua Hawley, who is the author of the library I used.
That's cool. Yeah, I was looking through the code and I saw some of the names in there, and then I watched the video and it looked like you could do it on the fly. You know what you should do in the code on the Instructable? In the names, you should add a name like Zelda, and then like the name of like that warrior princess from that one show. But I think that would just be funny for people reading the Instructable. But
I might do that.
But hey, Noah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk. I know that a lot of people out there, they're going to be interested in your projects because they're just plain neat. They're cool. And, you know, clearly you've put some good information online. So if people want to learn more about how to do those types of things, they can check it out and, you know, reach out to you on Instructables. And I can, you know, if we want, I can leave some information in the show notes also about how to reach out to you. And but I just really appreciate you taking the time to talk and, you know, tell us about your experience.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
You bet. Have a great one. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Man, I tell you what, Noah has a bright future if he's already got all that stuff going on. That's so neat. I'll make sure to link to his Instructables on our website under the show notes. So if you just go to programmingelectronics.com, go to the podcast tab, you can find this podcast there and see the show notes. Our next episode, I really think you're going to like. We reach out to sunny California to a Mr. Nick Polito, and he talks about a project he worked on called Spinfini, which is an interactive installation that plays music when people are riding these bikes. It's pretty interesting, a lot of neat stuff. If you enjoyed the show, there's no better way to help than to subscribe, rate, and review the show in iTunes. And you can reach out at podcast@programmingelectronics.com to let us know some topics that you'd like us to cover, maybe some potential themes, episode themes you think would be cool, or any future guests you'd like to see on. That would go a long way to help us kind of getting out the stuff that you're most interested in. So hey, I hope the very best for you. Thanks a ton for listening in, and I'd like to dedicate the show to Bob. Bob, I know you're listening. It is going to be a fantastic, fantastic week. All right. Hey, see you in the next show. Bye.
This show is produced by Programming Electronics Academy, an online technology education company. We exist to help you create the technology you want in your life. If you are interested in learning more about Arduino, we welcome you to sign up for our free Arduino Crash Course, a 12-part video series with accompanying written lessons designed to teach the basics of programming Arduino. To register for the course, simply text your email address to 440-701-5311, or you can visit programmingelectronics.com and sign up there.